I was hired to photograph a wedding at an old countryside estate. It was a historical venue, built sometime in the late 1800s, with tall wooden doors, stone walls, and a large garden out back. The ceremony was set to take place at sunset, with the reception in the ballroom afterward. The couple getting married was Daniel and Evelyn. The guest list was small, maybe 50 or 60 people, mostly family and close friends. The kind of wedding where everything was planned down to the smallest detail. I arrived at noon to take pre-wedding photos. I started with the decorations, the rings, and the venue shots. Then I took photos of Daniel and his groomsmen getting ready in one of the large rooms upstairs. Daniel seemed excited but nervous. I figured that was normal. I had done plenty of weddings before, and grooms always had that same anxious look before the ceremony. He kept checking his watch, asking if everything was on schedule. After that, I went to the bridal suite. Evelyn was sitting in front of a vanity mirror while her makeup artist finished the final touches. Her dress was already on, and the bridesmaids were fixing her veil. She didn't say much, just nodded when I asked if she was ready for photos. I took the standard shots, her looking out the window, her adjusting her dress, the bridesmaids helping her put on her jewelry. She looked calm, just focused. At 6:30, the ceremony started. The guests were seated, the music played, and Daniel stood at the altar. The doors opened, and Evelyn walked down the aisle. I snapped pictures as she made her way to him. The ceremony went smoothly. Vows were exchanged, rings were placed, and the officiant pronounced them husband and wife. I took pictures of the first kiss, the cheers from the guests, and the couple walking back up the aisle together. Everything was routine, just like any other wedding I had done before. Afterward, I took formal photos, family shots, couple shots, group pictures with the bridesmaids and groomsmen. Evelyn stood right in the center, holding Daniel's hand in every shot. She wasn't much of a talker, only speaking when someone asked her a question. After about 45 minutes we finished, and everyone went inside for the reception. I took my time getting extra photos of the venue before heading in. The sun had set, and the property lights cast long shadows across the garden. That's when I saw someone standing at the altar. It was Evelyn. She was in the same wedding dress, standing completely still, facing away from me. I assumed she had come back out for a moment alone. I raised my camera and took a picture. The flash went off, and the moment my eyes adjusted, she was gone. Looked around. The area was empty. No movement, no sound, just the faint hum of music coming from inside the building. I checked the picture I had just taken. The altar was there, the lights, the decorations, but Evelyn wasn't in it. The spot where she had been standing was empty. I shook it off and headed inside. The reception was already in full swing. Dinner was being served. People were talking, laughing, drinking. I walked around taking pictures of the guests. At one point, Daniel pulled me aside and asked if I could show him the photos so far. I handed him the camera and watched as he flipped. Through them, he stopped at one of the group shots. His expression changed. He looked up at me and asked where Evelyn was. I leaned in and looked at the screen. Everyone was there. The groomsmen, the bridesmaids, the family. But the bride was missing. I frowned and went back through the photos. Every single picture we had taken after the ceremony, she wasn't in them. The couple's shots, the family portraits, the group photos, it was like she had never been there. In a small village, a cat named Whiskers discovered a magic fish in a pond. The fish promised 3 wishes in exchange for its freedom. Whiskers wished for endless fish, a cozy bed, and a bell that rang softly. The fish granted all 3 wishes and swam away, leaving Whiskers content and purring in the sun. Daniel didn't say anything. He set the camera down and walked away. I watched as he made his way through the crowd, looking around like he was searching for someone. I continued taking photos, but kept checking the pictures after every shot. Evelyn wasn't appearing in any of them. By midnight, the guests started to leave. I packed up my equipment and got ready to head out. Daniel was sitting alone at a table staring at his phone. He hadn't spoken to anyone for over an hour. I considered saying something but decided against it. I loaded my gear into my car and drove home. The next morning I got a call from Daniel. His voice was shaky, like he hadn't slept. He asked me if I had seen Evelyn leave last night. I told him I hadn't. He said she was gone. Not just missing, gone. Her dress was still in the hotel room, her shoes, her phone, everything she had brought with her. But she wasn't there. None of. The guests remembered seeing her leave. Some of them didn't even remember talking to her at the reception. The officiant didn't recall pronouncing them husband and wife. The wedding planner said she had never met the bride in person, only communicated with her through email. Then, Daniel told me to check the guest photos. People had been posting pictures online from the wedding. I pulled up the album, the reception, the ceremony, the group shots. Evelyn was in none of them. Every picture she should have been in was missing. Her entirely. Daniel didn't call me again after that. I tried to reach out a few times, but he never responded. A few weeks later, I looked up the venue online. I found an article about the estate's history. The place had been used for weddings for decades, but there was a story, an old one, about a bride who had disappeared on her wedding night in the early 1900s. The groom searched for her for years, but no trace of her was ever found. Some people believed she had run away. Others thought something had happened to her on the property. A few days later, I went through my memory card again. I checked the photos from before the ceremony. Evelyn was in those. But after that moment, at the altar, after she said "I do," it was like she had never existed at all.